If you look at a home as an investment, it'll certainly affect how you choose flooring. Real hardwood floors can last a long time, probably longer than you'll be living there. These hardwood floors are more than 100 years old, and they're still going strong. The key to hardwood floors is they can be refinished over the course of their lifetime and keep that fresh new look. John Lessick from Apex Wood Floors has been kind enough to show us the process.
You know your hardwood floors need to be refinished when you see excessive wear patterns in the finish. You'll see areas where there's scratching or the stain is starting to have worn through and you're having some gray spots which come from the washing of the floor. You also have areas where they have maybe cracked or checked boards that'll be problematic areas. The normal process in meeting with the homeowner to describe the refinishing process would be as follows. We would send out one of our salespeople to meet in-home with the client and go through the whole process. Namely, first off, what are their expectations? Because a lot of times they have not had their floors refinished or they've heard horror stories about how the process goes. We'll first take them through the logistics of it. Furniture movement, appliance movement, if there's issues with perhaps pulling out a toilet or a pedestal sink, things of that nature. Then we'll get into the logistics of the inconvenience part of it, because realistically, it is inconvenient. Typically a 500 square foot job takes about 1 day to sand to get prepped for the stain. And then depending on the stain color, it would either be water popped or stained the next day, and then the finish coats are applied the next consecutive days. And we do the finish coats in the morning so the homeowner has access in the evening if they choose to stay in the home.
Once the room is prepared, sanding is the first step. John uses a unique process to control the dust from the sanding.
We utilize a dust extraction technology, which is a trailer mounted system, and it extracts the dust before it becomes airborne. If there's been a major technological advancement in the last decade with floor refinishing, that's been it. And then we get into just the refinishing process, which is the first cut of the sanding process, is where we either flatten the floor and or remove the existing finish off of it. The belt sander is the machine that does the vast majority of the floor, going in a front to back motion, going parallel with the wood. You might go on a slight angle for the first cut just to flatten the floor out, typically going from either left to right or right to left depending on the layout of the room. For the perimeter of the room, you use a machine called an edger, which does about 6 inches on the butt ends of the floor, which is where the floor runs into the wall, and approximately 2 to 3 inches on the parallel sides of the wall to do around the perimeter of each room. You can resand a wood floor over its lifetime approximately a half a dozen times, and that's going to be directly related to how aggressive you sand. Typically, after that first sanding process is done, the floor's been flattened out, you're only going to take maybe a 1/16 off, and you have about a 1/4 inch to 5/16 above the tongue of sandable material.
After the sanding, stain is applied if needed.
When you're staining a floor, there's many different applications. Some people brush the stain on, some people applicate it, some people choose to apply it with a carpet pad. We like the carpet pad method, and cutting in the edges, that's the most efficient and the cleanest way in the field to do the staining process. Once the floor has been stained, you go into the finishing process, and the two major finishes you have to choose from: an oil-based product or a water-based product. When you apply one coat of finish, it typically soaks in and raises the grain a little bit. So when you go back for the final coat or the second coat, you'd abrade the floor using sandpaper strips on a buffer or a screen, smoothing the finish out. Then you're going to vacuum it, tack it, and then apply the final coat of finish.
A lot of the timing depends on the size of the floor and how long it takes for stains and finishes to dry. But once it's done, you'll have a beautiful new floor. Now, you just have to keep it that way.